Hey guys, okay, so this is my first. I mean, I haven't done a lot. I've done like two, but this is my first. No 1-2 part. This is just full spoiler because this is well, it seemed short to me. It seemed like it was a really short side story, but it was 131 pages. That's what my nook says, but like we say, um. It is The Dream of You. It is part of Lynn, Jennifer L. Armentrout's Wait For You series. It's like basically 4.5 is what it's titled. Like it doesn't get like a full book number, okay? And it was part of the 1001 Dark Nights. Oh, sorry, you can't see that. I know everything's introverted, but it was the Dark Nights, and it's because I guess it's a series they're doing, 1001 Dark Nights, and they'll have it from like different authors and stuff like that. So, which you will see in this, I had to laugh at. They got into Jamie Maguire and a lot of other authors kind of like that are doing and also doing this, but kind of like in that kind of like group, because the main character, Abby, she's a book reviewer, and so she was talking about all these things she gets, like manuscripts and like all this stuff from books and authors. And it's like funny when you're reading it and you're like, I know that author. I like that author. That's funny. But anyways, this also goes to Reese's older brother, Colton Anders. And and he's basically detective. And the book starts off with that she's on a date, and he's a fitness like trainer, and he's a douchey guy, mean guy, and he's basically telling her, kind of like going through the date, but like, oh, you'd be so pretty if you were thinner type thing, and it's like, like, okay, you'd be more attractive if you weren't such a jerk. But anyways, she has that, and she's leaving the restaurant and walking to her car, and suddenly hears something, and it's kind of one of those, she knows she's in a bad neighborhood, shouldn't be lingering, but it happens, and she turns around and she happens to see two guys holding another guy up against the wall, and then they shoot him and kill him, and she's like, oh my god, and they see her and fire off the gun, and she goes running, collapses into people walking down the street. They bring her in to the office, and in walks Colton Anders. Colton and Abby knew each other a few years back, more than a few years. I want to say like 8 years back. They went to high school together, and Colton was basically like the all-American, hottie dream boy that was super popular and everyone liked, and she kind of viewed herself as being a chubby girl with glasses, and kind of wasn't anything particular to look at. Now we find a few things. Like I said, I've said this, I think, in the first book review I did. Whenever I hear about super hot guy, if the washboard six-pack and super good looking with like the incredible blue eyes, just all that kind of like description, and then you hear from the girl that she's kind of a bit bigger, that you've got a guy saying you should lose a few pounds, that she describes herself as being a certain way. It's kind of like, I always say, be nice if it happened. I mean, and this is one thing I love. She kind of pokes fun at it herself as she's writing, because she's like, I read, and review romance novels all the time. That's stuff that happens in fiction. It doesn't happen in real life, and it's supposed to be like, oh, but the big surprise is happening in her life. No, in real life it doesn't happen that way, and it's true. But it's funny when you read it in the book, and you're kind of like, oh, if only, but unreal expectations, it does not happen. But anyways, that's her whole thing. So she's going, always had a crush on him, thought he was super hot, thought she was kind of invisible, we find out she's actually married her high school sweetheart who she was dating in high school, and through then, and even though she was with him, always kind of got for Colton, but her husband had died in a car accident a few years ago. Not even a few years ago. I want to say, what was it, like 5 years or 3 years? It was one of those. And her parents had even died earlier than that in a car accident. She just thought it was so beyond bizarre that she lost like everyone she loved to a car accident. Because what are the odds, really? But anyway, so she goes in, and he's kind of viewing it as a second chance because, unbeknownst to her, he noticed her in high school, thought she was the smart, pretty girl who was the first into class, the last to leave, kind of knew everything and was shy, and who he kind of would have loved to have approached, but she had a serious boyfriend and didn't believe in, kind of like poaching on someone else's territory type thing. But had she had dumped her boyfriend in high school, he would have, been all over that. Anyways, he's been out of a relationship that he was in with a person. I hope this is right because I think it was 6 and 6. Like, he'd been with her for 6 years, and we're getting married, and we're engaged, we're getting married, and then decided that what she wanted and what he wanted wasn't prioritized right, it wasn't correct, so broke it off 6 months before he met Abby. So she kind of viewed him as like, well, you're just on the rebound. You were with this girl for so long and you just broke up with her. So is this like a convenient type thing? Anyways, he views her coming into his life as a second chance because, he always kind of liked her and, kind of viewed her as a straightforward, kind of person. And so they kind of start this up. In the meantime, she basically kind of has to go into like their own like mini downgraded version of witness protection because the shooter, she saw the shooter and the people who committed the crime, and they saw her. However, the main gang lord, as we've learned in from the 3rd book, is Kafakov. It's a Russian guy from Israel. His last name sounds Russian though, but it's Israel, and he runs the gang and stuff. And these people who did this killing killed one of his guys, and they're kind of duding on his turf. So it's kind of his like, you don't mess with my area, you back off. So he's there on a private search, basically hunting these guys down. So they want to find out who these. But these shooters think that they're getting marked because she's identified them and stuff like that, not realizing that it's probably saving them if they can get into police custody, because without being in it, they're going to die, which happens to the first guy. And it's kind of a whole thing. She's got her other stuff going that she's kind of insecure about how she looks and doesn't think she looks sexy and doesn't feel sexy, and kind of, is kind of working on that while he's there. Eventually everything goes down, that they get into a fight, and it was more her kind of accusing him like, is this a convenient thing? Why are you choosing me? I don't know if I believe that you want me type thing. And he basically goes to give her some space. In the meantime, she is friends with this girl who's a bit younger, who later, I think in one of our later books, is going to be the girl involved with one of the guys, Brock, who will be probably a book later, because, or something like that, because she makes it seem like the kid's got a crush on one of their friends who's showing up, that it's kind of like, yeah, something's going to happen. But they show up to the bar, Mona's, and when she shows up, everyone's having kind of a conversation that he needs to get, that Colton's there, he's in the office, and needs to get out, and this whole thing, and she's kind of wondering what's happening. And then as she looks up, he's walking out of the office with who she immediately identifies as his ex, whose name is Nicole, who's this beautiful blonde, like Victoria's Secret model-esque, so she kind of loses it and walks out the bar. And as she walks home, the door knocks, and without thinking to look, she thinks it's Colton, and it turns out it's the final shooter. And so he basically takes her, and it turns into a whole thing. In the end, he's kind of making fun of her, calling her a fat bitch. And trying to haul her through the house and to get out when the cops show up. And he calls her some names, and it kind of snaps, so she grabs a lamp and knocks him out, and it's a whole thing. But Colton comes back, and, they're kind of having this discussion. He's explaining that, he doesn't like his ex that way. They were just talking, that his ex wanted to get back, but that it's not happening, and that he's crazy about her. It turns into a back and forth, I love you, and, kind of situation. And it's just, so it ends with, they're going to a barbecue. I'm trying to remember if it's I want to say it's at the boss's house. And boss of Mona's. It's at his house with his girlfriend, Cal. I always remember mostly the females. I always have a hard time remembering the guys, which is funny because they're the good part of the story. But I always have trouble remembering their names. But anyways, they're at their house. They're bringing stuff. Everybody's kind of making cootsy-coo faces, and she goes to the front, and the door knocks, and of course, it's Nicole, and, they kind of get into this thing back and forth, and she admits that, she's the one dating Colton, and I don't know, I mean, it's kind of one of those, I like the jealous exes. I kind of like that catty, it's just because it's so realistic, but in the end, she's kind of like, don't be stupid, if you care about him, tell him you care about him. I never did. I didn't express it the right way. Now he's gone, and, don't tell him that, I showed up. I won't try to make a move on him while he's with somebody, and that kind of thing, which is nice and admirable. You would never see it in girls. I mean, let's be honest. Really not really. So anyways, it kind of goes into that. So then she admits that she loves him, and he loves her, and that they're, going to try to make this work. And even though she has her insecurities that they got to deal with, it's all good. And so, I don't know. Like I say, wasn't bad. I'd probably give it 2.5 stars. Like I say, Jalen always gets at least 2 stars, but it was one of those that was just like, I mean, it was meant to be, it was 0.5, so it was meant to be like a half book, but, I don't know, I just was like, don't need to reread it again, just okay. Not vital to the storyline, which is good, because, well, none of them are vital to the storyline, they just introduce the characters again, but, like I say, pretty good. I liked it. And I'm kind of wondering in the future, though, if she's pregnant. Just because the way they describe some of the stuff. I'm trying to remember if that was this book or the 4th book. Because I read them, back to back. But in one of those, it made it seem like she was sick and having an issue. And I thought it was at a party. But I can't help but wonder if Avery's pregnant. But anyways, that was my review of it. And I hope you guys enjoy that. If you have any questions, like I said in my intro, suggestions for reading, any particular questions, go ahead. But odds are you've probably read this book. So we're waiting for the next one. All right, from Maddening Mind of Haley B. See you guys later.